I've been using the Canon R6 since it came out in July 2020 as my main photo and video camera. I've filmed music videos, documentaries, all of my YouTube stuff. It's done car photography, landscape photography, and of course, street photography. So in this video, I'm gonna share my personal experience in case you were wondering whether you wanted to buy the camera or you were just curious to see how it holds up. Let's just get started with the 20 megapixels. Everyone asks me, is it enough? And my simple and obvious answer is always, yes, definitely. However, my photos have never been blown up onto a 50-foot billboard, which is when megapixels probably matters. But with the quality of the sensors in pretty much all of the newest full-frame mirrorless cameras, you're not gonna have a problem. You could probably go down to 12 megapixels with a sensor like what's on the Canon R6, and it would still be fine. And for the pixel peepers out there, when I do crop in 100% onto an image, I don't notice any quality problems. And in my opinion, the lens that you use will matter way more to determine how sharp or how good of a quality your photo is. Overheating. Now, I'm gonna be totally honest, this is a problem and it's annoying that I have to be aware of it. It's probably overheated 4 times in the last 18 months. Now, there are a lot of really good videos out there talking about the overheating problems in detail, so I'll just briefly explain my experience. If I shoot in 4K 30 frames C-Log, it will overheat after about 20 to 30 minutes, which is annoying. But I figured out if I change the 4K to the lighter version of the file, so 4K light at 30 frames in C-Log, it's fine. I can also shoot 4K 30 in normal, regular footage, not C-Log. That's also fine. It's just when you introduce the, full quality 4K at C-Log, that's when it becomes an issue for me. But I've only encountered this problem 4 or 5 times and it's overheated and stopped me from shooting about 4 times. So it is a problem, but it isn't a daily problem. It's like a once in a while issue, which I'm not defending Canon for because it's definitely a problem, but it's not a problem that I encounter very often. The autofocus on the R6 is one of the best I've ever seen, and I've used a lot of flagship cameras from other brands, and the R6, in my opinion, is still one of the very best out there. The eye tracking autofocus is especially impressive. I've been doing a lot of street photography, and I will lock onto people's faces and eyes across the road, across the street, and to me, that is a game changer for street photography.
The Canon R6 is actually locked focus on them already. Talk about autofocus abilities.
I can't remember the last time I missed focus when using the R6. Discussing lenses now. RF lenses are expensive, but like a lot of tech, you get what you pay for. So I have used a handful of RF lenses with the R6 and the quality is outstanding. However, my pockets, unfortunately, are not deep enough for my entire setup to be RF. At first, especially a few years ago, there wasn't many third-party options for RF lenses. You either had to suck it up and buy a Canon RF or just get the EF to RF adapter and use your EF lens. But over the recent years, we're starting to get a couple of good third-party options for RF lenses like Viltrox, Samyang and Yongnuo, to name a few. I've personally been using this RF 85mm from Viltrox and it has been brilliant. I do have the RF 24-105 f4, which is basically the kit lens for the Canon R6. It came with the camera when I bought it. But other than that one, all of my other lenses, like the 16-35 Mark II, which I use all the time, is EF. Now, because all of my other lenses are EF, I have to use the R to EF adapter. And one of the most common questions I get and I see online is there a problem with the RF to EF adapter? And simple answer is no. I've never seen a problem or an issue with any quality when using an EF lens with an R camera. I think if you were interested in getting the R6 or you were interested in getting an RP or an R or an R5 or an R3, you can use your EF lenses, there isn't any issues. Talking about build quality and user experience, when I first made a Canon R6 review after about 3 or 4 months owning the camera, I explained how when I shook the camera, something inside shaked or it felt like there was some rattling and it was like really getting on my nerves. And then the comments just let me know that that was the IBIS, that was the stabilization. Obviously, I just remember that being something that I picked up and it's clearly not a problem. Yes, it's the IBIS, it's the stabilization. That's why it feels like there's something shaking. Anyway, I didn't need to explain that really. I'm just calling myself out because I was an idiot and now I know what that shaking is. The easiest way for me to explain the ergonomics and the build quality of the R6 is that every single time I pick up another camera, it never feels as good in your hands as the R6. Now, anyone that owns an R camera, an RP, an R and R5 will tell you that they are the nicest cameras to hold. Obviously I'm biased because I own an R6, but I never ever pick up another camera and think, oh, I wish my camera felt like this. No other camera feels as good as the R6 in terms of ergonomics, in your hand shooting experience. Let's talk about the cost and the price of the R6. In my opinion, it's worth every single penny. If you don't make money with your camera and you're just a hobbyist, or you just, do photography on the side, then £2,500 on a camera could seem off-putting when you could spend £1,500 on a camera and get similar results. But if you do make money through photography or videography, if you make money with your camera, then I think the R6 is a great investment. So it's coming up to 2 years since the R6 came out, and whenever a new camera like the A7 IV is released and gets me hyped and is exciting and is seen as the R6 competition, I'm always reaffirmed after researching, after hearing the news, after looking at the specs, that the R6 is still probably the better option. Now that depends. If you're already shooting on Sony, then it's less of an investment, less of a faff to just stay with the Sony. And same goes for Canon. If you've always used Canon, buying another Canon camera obviously sounds like the easier option. I did do an A7 III versus R6 comparison, and the R6 clearly came out on top, but I think it would be more appropriate now if I did an R6 versus A7 IV review, but I'm sure there's probably some good videos out there. But my point here is just that I've seen the A7 IV and I would still buy the Canon R6 over it. I feel like I should preface this by saying, obviously I'm biased towards Canon. I've used Canon for years. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm correct, but I'm just giving you my honest opinion. If I did have unlimited budget, I would buy the R5. However, my current laptop and workflow and technology probably won't keep up with R5 files, so it's a little bit too much of a faff right now, and I think I'm sticking with the Canon R6 for at least another 3 or 4 years as my main workhorse. Something else I think people care about is weather sealing and weatherproof. Now, I've taken photos and filmed videos in very bad rainy weather and not a single problem. Yes, the camera's gonna get wet, but it can handle it no problem. Saying that, I've not been in the middle of the ocean or been in a storm, so I can't compare it to the worst conditions, but when it's raining outside or the weather's a little bit dodgy, I've never questioned using the Canon R6. It has always been good. Talking about low light now, the lens you decide to use also plays a big part in the low light situation when you're filming and taking photos. But just talking about the body, I think it is fantastic in low light. And like I said, I think you've got the gist of this video by now. If I had to go and buy another camera, there is not one thing about the R6 that puts me off from buying it again. It's probably overheated 4 times in the last 18 months. If you wanted a workhorse for photo and video, I recommend the R6 wholeheartedly. Now that depends on your budget, what system you're using at the minute. There is so many variables to whether you should buy a camera or not. I'm not here to tell you that you should buy the camera. I'm just here to tell you that from my experience, it has been perfect to work with, except maybe for the fact that it's overheated 4 or 5 times, like I said. So maybe it's not perfect. No camera can be perfect, but it's pretty damn close. Drop some comments down below if you want some clarity or you've got some questions about the camera. But that's it from me. Hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.